online and both online and in person. I'm based in Tysons Corner, Virginia. If you're interested in tutoring, you can reach me at that same email address. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll put all that information in the comments. So, I want to talk about a mnemonic for memorizing the sum and difference identities for sine and cosine. I'll first start by rattling off those identities. The sine of a plus b is equal to the sine a of cosine b plus cosine a sine b. Sine of a minus b is equal to sine a cosine b minus cosine a sine b. Cosine of a plus b is equal to cosine a cosine b minus sine a sine b. Cosine of a minus b is equal to cosine a cosine b sine a sine b. Okay.
Stop requested.
Okay, so here's for the mnemonic. I think of sine as the good son and cosine as his bad brother. So let's pretend it's Sine's birthday and he gets two gifts, A and B, two toys A and B for his birthday. Now, being a good boy, he shares his toys. So in the first hour after his birthday, Sine plays with toy A and he lets his brother cosine play with toy B. Now they get bored after an hour, so then they switch the toys. And so after an hour we have Sine playing with B and cosine playing with A. And that's how I remember the identity. Sine of A plus B equals sine A cosine B plus cosine A sine B. The interesting thing about this Sine being a good boy and cosine being a bad boy is it seems to pervade a ton of mathematics. For instance, it sort of illustrates this first identity in two dimensions, because the other dimension is Sine is being nice to the reader or the learner of math by not changing the sign, no pun intended. In other words, both the left side and the right side of that identity have a plus sign. Alright, the next identity is just like the first, but with a minus sign. So the same story goes, Sine is sharing his presents and his gifts with his brother, and he doesn't switch up the sign on the reader. You have a minus sign on the left and a minus sign on the right, because Sine is nice. Alright, now for cosine, let's pretend it's cosine's birthday. So cosine gets two toys for his birthday, A and B. We have cosine A plus B. Now, being selfish or a bad child, he's a hog, so he hogs up both toys during the first hour and plays with both. So we have cosine A, cosine B. Then he gets bored after the first hour and says, "Oh, cosine, you can play with him." So we have minus sine A, sine B. And then again, the other way cosine is perverse in two dimensions is he also switches up the sign on the learner of math. So the left side has a plus sign and the right side has a minus sign. And the next identity is, the same reasoning. Cosine of A minus B equals cosine A cosine B plus sine A sine B. So cosine's a hog, he plays with both toys first, and then he switches up the sign on the reader. We have a minus sign on the left and a plus on the right. Now the interesting thing about these mnemonics of sine being good and cosine being bad is I sort of attached some math to it. Like, maybe the reason sine is good is that if you think of the graph of y equals sine x, it looks like the identity function, y equals x. They both pass through the origin, and they both slope upwards. In fact, y equals x is an approximation to y equals sine x to the origin, because the limit of sine x over x is x approaches 0 is 1. And the identity function is just vanilla, right? It doesn't do anything. So maybe that's why sine is sort of a good boy. He doesn't change things. Nothing happens. Whereas if you look at the graph of cosine, it doesn't start at the origin, it starts at a peak, right? Above the origin, the point on the cosine function has coordinates 0, 1. Alright, I'm going to stop this video right here. Bye.